All right, so today you'll be learning the Hindu push-up. This push-up not only builds strength, but increases flexibility, cardio, and improves coordination. It's the Swiss Army knife of push-ups, and it's why I feel everyone can benefit by doing the Hindu push-up. See, my brother and I first learned this from the Yamakasi. These are some of the pioneers of parkour, and this was one of the key exercises they used in their training, and it transformed our strength, flexibility, and endurance. However, the roots of this push-up go back even further. The Hindu push-up, or more specifically, the Sadharan Dand, was so effective at developing all-around physical fitness, it became a cornerstone exercise in Pelwani wrestling in India and South Asia, creating some legendary athletes. And today you're going to learn the right way to do it and how to build into it as a beginner. And this is just one of the exercises we use in our Primal Fitness program. So if at any time during this video you want to help support this channel or level up your fitness, then go ahead and click the link down in the description and it'll take you to that program. All right, let's jump into the Hindu push-up. So for you to master and perfect the Dand, we're not just gonna throw into it and risk getting injured or not get the technique down. We're actually gonna break this down to 4 different positions. As you'll see, really the Dand is just a combination of 4 positions that are then flowed together. This will make your Dand stronger, it'll make it easier, and help you prevent injuries. All right, so position number 1 is the base. We have a good base and the rest of it will come much easier. So we're gonna start in a push-up position like this. So let me show you how to break this down so the technique's really good. So with the hands, we're gonna plant them on the ground, shoulder width apart. With the fingers, we want them facing straight. As we move up, we want the wrists to stack under the shoulders. With the elbows, this one's really important. We don't want them to flare out at any point during this move. So we don't want it to do this, especially as we go into the push-up. So during this whole movement, we're going to externally rotate the arm, taking the elbow and wrapping it towards the body like this. This is gonna give us a stronger push-up position and a stronger downward dog position when we go into it. That's a huge cue to think about. As we go further up with the shoulders, we don't want to collapse the shoulders like this or shrug the shoulders. We want them to come back like this, and we're going to protract. That means instead of collapsing like this, we're going to raise the back up and the shoulders pushing down. Now, for the rest of the position, the core, we're going to brace. With the spine, we want to stay neutral, so we're not gonna curve like this, we're not gonna arch like this. We're holding a nice neutral position, bracing with the core. The glutes, we're gonna squeeze them, but not so much that we're doing a posterior tilt. We wanna keep a nice neutral position here. And then for the feet, this is a big one. We want to make sure they're about hip width apart, and we want some room in the heels. What I mean is, we don't want to be too far up on the toes like this. We need to have movement to go forward. So you're going to drop the heels a little bit like this, so that way we can push forward, because when we go into the chaturanga position here, we need the feet to shoot forward to get in the right position, which you'll see later. So position 1, push-up plank and holding that technique. Once you have that, then we have the base to flow into the rest of the moves quite easily. Next, we go into position number 2, which is the downward dog. So from that base that we set up, we're going to push the hips back, pulling them up and back. Keep the legs straight and the arms. We want to make sure that we're still externally rotating those arms as we push back like this. Now, as we reach our flexibility range, you're gonna have 2 different options here. So let's say you're not as flexible. You either have to compensate by bending the legs so you can get your arms straight and get deeper into the stretch with the upper body, or you keep the legs straight and you just don't go as far with the arms. Now, if you have good flexibility in both, you'll be able to go into the full downward dog position. Shoulders are pushed in, your back is straight, and the legs are straight. Now, the heels don't have to touch the ground. You just want to make sure you have a good stretch here. Now, a couple of big mistakes that people make with this is first with the upper body, the shoulders and the elbows. With our shoulders and elbows, again, as we come back into this position, a lot of people tend to shrug. So they'll push the shoulders down like this too much. This is okay for a handstand, but in this position, we don't want to do that. We need to have more strength in the shoulder to be able to go into the push-up. So what we're going to do
To fix this, we're gonna keep those arms externally rotated, pull the shoulders back, and then protract slightly, not too hard, but just enough to give you some extra strength. This will fix the problem, because when we shift into the next movement, we need our shoulder strength and shoulders to be engaged here as we go into this.
Okay, the third position is the chaturanga, or the low push-up.
So I want you to start this position by laying on your mat. And we're gonna take our hands and we're gonna move them right by the chest, so right around the armpits with the palm here. The goal for this, and again, fingers facing forward, shoulder width apart, but the goal here is we want the wrist stacked under the elbow. So you should see this nice angle right here. That's the hand position that we want. We don't want to be back here in a weakened position. We want to be forward like this. This is what we're looking for. This is going to give us better strength for the push-up. It's also going to make it easier to flow in and out of the other positions. And then again, the same principles apply. Brace the core, shoulders not shrugging, but protracting slightly and down, and then we hold in this position here. And again, that's where that foot placement comes in. Remember, we had the heel in the plank position, we had the heel drop a little bit, because as we go from downward dog and then into this chaturanga, the feet need to shift forward so we can go into this position.
Okay, position number 4, and this is the final position before we put it all together, is the cobra.
What I want you to do, instead of going to the full cobra, we're gonna do a baby cobra first. So just like we started with the chaturanga, where we had our hands next to our chest like this, we're gonna be in that same position. And then what I want you to do is lift the chest off the ground, but don't use your hands as much. Just have them there for a little bit of support, but lift up like this. Raise the chin and see how far you can go by just using your back muscles and strength. Because this will give you a good idea of where your strength and flexibility is at for this position, this extension with the back. So now that we have the baby down and we see where we're at in this position, we're going to lift up into the full cobra. And by lifting up our belly off the ground, we will get more flexibility. So lift up from here, hold that position, and see where we can get by using some assistance with the arms and lifting up our belly off the ground. Now you'll notice you'll get more flexibility, but for me, see, my back's pretty tight. This is about as far as I can go comfortably without straining my back a little bit. So it's good to find out where you're at in that position, because this is going to be your range as we go into the full thing. Now, I want you to take that full cobra, and now we're going to push up, but keep your hips in that same position. This will be crucial for the full thing, is to know where your flexibility range is for your back. So that way you don't just throw into a hyperextension and injure your back. So if this is your range, this is where you're going to be at when you start going into the full thing. So if you're having trouble with the cobra position, work on the separate baby cobra and full cobra before throwing it into the full dand. All right, so those were the 4 positions. I would encourage to train each of those individually and make sure you have that down in the technique. Now we're going to combine them together. But as we start, I want to start at a beginner level. So we're going to start on our knees, or you can use a ledge or a couch to work on this, to take away the resistance so we can just focus on the technique and form, and then we can go up from there. So we're gonna get into our starting position. If we're on the knees like this, we're going to start by driving the hips back into that downward dog. So from position 1 to position 2. Then we're going into the chaturanga. Now, this is a really important one. So to swoop down into this position, we're gonna start by dropping the elbows. The elbows are gonna drop down till they're just about to touch. We're not gonna touch, but really close. And then we want to imagine that we're swooping down and under a bar, a low bar. So it would look like this. We drop on the elbows, we're swooping down, driving forward, and then once we hit this position, so our hands are now underneath this, we shift into that chaturanga. So you can practice just that transition, because this transition is important. We go here, drop the elbow, swoop down into chaturanga, hold here. Then we go into the cobra. And then we go back to the starting position and then flow into the downward dog. So you can see it's just a flowing fluid motion. And now that we know those different positions, you can see how it's a lot easier to connect this together. So once we have that down, it feels comfortable, we're having good technique, we don't have any joint problems, then we go into the full thing. Now we're raising up, starting that push-up plank, hit all those position points we talked about, and now we're back into downward dog. We drop down, swoop into chaturanga, up, boom. And we can do this in each position. So position 1, position 2, down into position 3, and then cobra, back. So you can see once we master those 4 positions, the rest comes a lot easier. Now, this is just one of the exercises we use in our Primal Fitness program. So if you like these type of exercises, then click the link down in the description right now, and that will take you to the next page where you can learn more and join us inside. Here we do moves similar to this and other things like beginner calisthenics to help you build a stronger, pain-free body. So thanks for watching, keep moving, and I'll see you in the next video.